Welcome back to Sports Blitz Live. Luke Robinson here now, joined by a very special guest, J.D. Cowart, who is the sports editor of the Alexander City Outlook. J.D., how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Luke. How you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us. And the reason we're having you on is because the Outlook has released its first ever preseason All-SEC team. And this was something that I took part in. We also had Brett and Randy from Sports Blitz, as well as Dusty Harper, who's also with the Outlook, and Bruce Myers, who writes articles for the Outlook as well. All of us, including yourself, participated in the tallying of these votes for the All-SEC team, and it was really interesting. And quite honestly, one thing that just blew me away, considering that Dusty, Randy, and Brett are all dyed-in-the-wool Auburn fans, there was not one single Auburn player on our first-team All-SEC list. And the one name that really shocked me in terms of his absence was Philip Lutzenkirchen.
Yeah. I think, first off, with the poll, it was one of those things where everybody sent in something, and all I did was tally up total votes. I mean, you could send in a starting offense of whoever you really wanted to, and I just tallied up the votes. With Lutzenkirchen, I think that, with the quarterback that I think maybe Philip Lutzenkirchen's quarterback issues, and I heard him. I think he's got, with the quarterback issues at Auburn, you've got a tight end like Orson Charles, who's got an established quarterback who he also played high school with, and Aaron Murray. I've been watching Orson Charles when I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a University of Alabama graduate, but I've known about Orson Charles for years now, back when he was a recruit. I think he's going to be a phenomenal tight end. I think he's going to have a really, really big breakout year this year. I think it was a good call all the way around. So,
yeah, and it's hard to argue that. But again, you and I were talking, and apparently I was the only one that voted for Philip Lutzenkirchen, which really surprised me because I'm an Alabama graduate myself. Yeah.
I mean, you were. It was kind of funny with Philip Lutzenkirchen, and there were a few defensive backs from Auburn that had selections from Randy and Brett and Dusty as well. But all the way around, the defensive backs were almost pretty much unanimous with Stephon Gilmore and Mark Barron. So I really, really enjoyed putting the poll together. I think it was a tie right down the middle. Not a tie, but it was dang near close to a tie for quarterback between Tyler Wilson out of Arkansas and Aaron Murray out of the University of Georgia. And as coach of the year also is right there with Steve Spurrier and Bobby Petrino of Arkansas. So I think it was a fun thing to do. I also think it actually is quite informational. There's a lot of unanimous decisions on here. So.
Yeah, certainly. And in fact, that leads me into another question. Tyler Wilson, I figured that race would have to be very tight. But I think he and Aaron Murray, who a lot of folks have as the first-team All-SEC quarterback, that's almost a win for them by default. I mean, there's no standout in the SEC this year. I mean, some people might even put Jordan Jefferson up there just based on experience, even though at times he looks anything but an All-SEC quarterback.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. I think that with a guy like Tyler Wilson, he's got a great frame. He's got a lot better frame than Aaron Murray, just to be quite frank. He's 6'3", 215. I think the biggest thing for Tyler Wilson, obviously within the area we live in, and amongst Auburn fans, is how well he did when he came in when Ryan Nalla went down against Auburn earlier, this past season. So I think Tyler Wilson's really, really rode that train. I personally voted for Aaron Murray. I think that his experience, he's got the leg up on Wilson for that. Now I don't know, Aaron Murray's size has got sort of an issue. I believe he's only 6 feet 6'1" at most. But I think Tyler Wilson also he's got some great receivers around him with Joe Adams and Greg Childs. Greg Childs is also on the All-SEC team. I think he's really, really got some weapons. I don't see anybody, no one put any votes in for Jordan Jefferson. I feel like around the SEC and even with LSU fans in particular, the faith in Jordan Jefferson is still not there as a whole. I know he's got Zach Mettenberger, the transfer from the University of Georgia, right on his heels in camp. And I was here, like I've said before on our Tuesday coaches show, Luke, I would not be surprised to see Zach Mettenberger make a run at the starting quarterback job by the time the season rolls around. So, I'm right there with you on the quarterbacks.
Meanwhile, the essentially unanimous SEC Offensive Player of the Year, and a little bit of a shock to me, was Alshon Jeffrey. Now, this is a guy that obviously I picked as the SEC Player of the Year, but he gets the nod over a guy like Marcus Lattimore, who wasn't even a unanimous selection on the first All-SEC team, which, again, That shocked me a little bit, and that's why I love doing these things. It's interesting to get other takes on this because you have Trent Richardson, you have Niall Davis, you have Michael Dyer, and you have Marcus Lattimore. So out of those 4 running backs, you had to choose 2, and that's really tough to do. I mean, obviously, I like Trent Richardson a lot. I think that he's shown us a lot in his 2 years on campus at the university. Niall Davis led the league in rushing last year. Michael Dyer had one of the best freshman running back years in recent memory. And then, of course, you got Marcus Lattimore, who is an absolute beast. And so it was tough to pick out 2 out of that group, and we ended up going with Trent Richardson and Marcus Lattimore, if I remember right. But Alshon Jeffrey, as the Offensive Player of the Year, I thought I was going out on a limb, and it turns out everybody was thinking about the way I was.
Yeah, I'll tackle that. I'll tackle that both ways. You know, with Alshon, you know, he busted onto the scene, obviously, with the Alabama game last year. He's such a specimen also. I mean, you got a guy, Alshon Jeffrey, 6'4", 233, great speed down the field. He's going to get open downfield. You also have to factor in Stephen Garcia, who's going in now into his 5th year in the Steve Spurrier offense, and he's been working with Alshon going into Alshon's, going into his junior year. So that's going to be 3 years of working with Alshon. I think that he's one of those guys that he's already flourished some. He's going to continue to flourish more in this upcoming season. I think down the field, he's probably, I think he's definitely the best in the SEC, perhaps maybe the best in the country with his size. From the running back standpoint, Niall Davis, actually, he didn't get one nomination from anybody, which I thought also was surprising. With Marcus Lattimore and Trent Richardson, I think the main thing that threw off either one of them being unanimous is that everybody had a mixture of those 3, whether it was Trent and whether it was Richardson and Dyer, or whether it was Lattimore and Richardson, or whether it was Lattimore and Dyer. So that's what ended up. Michael Dyer was right there on the heels. If I would have done 3 running backs, Michael Dyer would have been right there with it. You know, I think all 3 are great backs. I like the team. I like the running backs we have. Trent Richardson and Marcus Lattimore were my choices. I think Richardson's going to be a beast this year. And I think, you know, Lattimore's only going to continue to get better and continue to flourish in the Spurrier offense. So.